I perceive money as
the root of all evil.
No. People put that evil in. Like, you instill value and you instill ideas. So if you instill money as end all be all and you take it to the extreme and your life is nothing but money and all your relationships fall apart, well, that's what money is to you.
Like this notion of liberty, for example. What is liberty?
And I think that concept of the will is very important.
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet? What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community?
Bitcoin will not work as digital gold.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.
Everyone deserves the same chance, the same treatment, the same respect.
Boom shakalaka. Ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, welcome to the Christian Journey podcast, the coolest, most conscious podcast in all the world. Ladies, we got a treat. We got my brother from another mother, the chocolate soul brother, Okeito. This guy is cool. He's good looking. He's charismatic. He has the knowledge. The guy is into the crypto scene. He's into tech. He's into mycelium mushrooms. I always make reference to you being into that because you're the first person that started telling me about mycelium mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that. We're going to delve into a whole bunch of controversial topics. Buckle up, senoritas. This one is going to be legit. Oh! But before we get on this podcast, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to like this video, subscribe, click on the bell, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your momos. If you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, be sure to share this, send this to a random person, tell them to check it out. Buckle up. All right, so Okeito, I have been trying to get you on my podcast for quite some time. You are a knowledgeable person. We have a lot of commonalities. You know, we're both chocolatey, smooth, and we're both into music. You're a hip hop artist, and amongst other things. But more importantly, man, you drop a lot of knowledge. I always enjoy talking to you. Our conversations are very conscious and also, just down to earth, you know. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to have you come here and just share your awesomeness to all the amazing 2 viewers that we have right now. We'll get more. Be sure to everyone. I want you guys to share this far and wide so we can get at least another couple more viewers here. But no, I'm sure it'll pick up. But ladies and gentlemen, introducing Okeito. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, what you're about?
Wow, you gave quite an intro. By profession, I'm a designer. So I essentially like solving other people's problems and I get paid for it. I'm a user experience designer, to be specific. So for those that don't know what that is, essentially all the little buttons and text and all the things that's in the app, someone like me is on the TikTok team and they essentially design, test it with users and figure out what's the next best feature and where to put it, where to stick it, how best to present it. And that's the kind of stuff I do.
All right. So you're a geek. But I mean that in a positive way.
Totally.
You know?
I love
absolutely.
the term geek and nerd. And I think everyone is a geek and nerd in their own ways and fashion.
But I say that with respect. I feel like a geek maybe in the 80s was kind of like, you're a geek, not cool. But now we have the geeks that are taking over the world. You know, the people that are not only knowledgeable about the tech scene, but they have the money and they got the ladies as well. And you're someone that has all of those things, brother.
Yeah, I would say that the term has always been the same. So back then, they didn't have the money, they didn't have the power, right? But you were called a geek and that was looked down upon. But some people did like it. And now people can still call you that, and it's whether you want to wear it as a badge of honor. But now a lot of geeks are running the world, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example. And then programmers get paid insane amounts. I'm probably in the wrong career, but yeah.
Absolutely. You feel like you're in the wrong career because I know you're a hip hop artist as well, right?
I'm making a joke. User experience designers get paid well as well, but these. I don't know. Was it the same for you growing up? You thought of like doctors and lawyers; they get paid decent amounts, right? And then programmers. I don't know if any of you guys know programmers out there, but 6 figures, no problem. Like first year out, you know,
they're taking over the world. And I feel like the most important thing in the future is going to be what is referred to as TQ, Because we have
TQ?
IQ, typical
Oh, yeah,
intelligence.
technical,
But
yeah.
TQ deals with your ability to use technology. Because you have a look at the new world, right?
Yeah.
We're moving into a point where you're going to need to know how to use social media if you want to promote yourself. Even if you're in a field, right, where you think you don't need to sell yourself like some OnlyFans person, but you just want to promote your business.
Totally.
I read just a while ago that one of the most recruited types of work is someone that has design skills, or someone that's able to make video, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of businesses are looking to promote their businesses on TikTok, other platforms, and if you actually have those skills, those tech skills, you're making yourself very valuable. So,
100% agree.
Speaking about the tech world, bro, how'd you get into that? Is that something you've always been into?
Yeah, I guess so. For sure. I guess it manifests itself over time. When I was younger, I definitely was into like science and tech, and then at some point in time, it definitely became tech. But I was always a creative child, so I used to draw a lot. I would say I was a pretty darn good drawer. I would just like look at something, draw it on a different scale, give it to all my friends, all that good stuff. But I knew I'd never wanted to be like an illustrator or anything. I was like, this is fun. I don't want to get paid for that. And so I just really focused on my other interests, and I went to college for tech stuff. I think it was information systems and technology. Basically, you just become like a glorified tech guy, and you tell programmers to make stuff for you and get paid big bucks. It's more to it than that, but yeah. And then after that, it struck me that I didn't have enough of the creative element, and I became a graphic designer. I self-taught graphic designer, and just started doing it from there. And I was, designing ads, logos, you name it. I was obsessed with print stuff. InDesign was like my favorite program to work with. I thought it was like the pinnacle of technology. And then I was missing the tech side, and I really wanted to make websites and get into the interactive stuff. So my entire journey has been just basically combining all of the favorite aspects of my interest into one career, if I could pull it off. And magically, that career did exist, which is what I do now. The light bulb moment was definitely when Apple opened up the App Store. Like, I don't know if people really remember this or pay attention to this, but I'm a tech geek. That was revolutionary. There was no...
Just going to try to get you into the camera a bit more here. All right, we're good.
In the past, when you had technology platforms like an old phone, to get an app on those phones, you had to be in meetings that no one was there for. You had to have money and connections, or like break mics over here. And then Apple basically said, oh no, we're going to open up for everyone, and you could make whatever you want and just put it on the App Store. And when that happened, I was like, this is it. This is how I can get in. This is what I can do. And I've just been pursuing it ever since. And yeah, we're just all a part of history. That's kind of revolutionary. And now, like, there's that CarPlay, and now apps are in cars. Like, it just keeps going.
Absolutely. Bro, let's get into crypto NFTs, because you're someone that has delved into that. If I can say, you're pretty knowledgeable. You're doing pretty well. And how's that affected just the whole tech space recently? Is because I'm seeing a lot of focus in regards to the use of NFTs in the world of business marketing. A lot of artists are now looking to sell their merchandise as NFTs. They're looking to essentially do everything on the blockchain. How have you seen that affect your industry?
These are big topics, bro. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just going to try to get something a bit more sustained with the camera angle here, because I feel like it's chopping out all your chocolatey goodness. Yeah. All right. Keep talking, bro. I got you.
Okay. Wait. So, all right. Oh, NFTs. Oh, so how do I see it affecting essentially everything?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big. You clumsy today. What do you?
Yeah. I'm just I'm trying to get everything perfect. This is what happens when you run these podcasts on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. But I think we got it.
He wasn't sure I wanted to do it, and then I surprised him. I was like, roll that beautiful bean footage.
All right. I think we got it now. Okay.
Cool. He wants me to get closer to him.
Okay.
This guy, so
all right, we're good.
drink first.
Okay.
All right, cool. Oh, so NFTs
NFTs
or crypto in general.
Crypto NFTs. Let's drop it. What's
big topic? Okay, so
what's the go on that?
What's the go on that? Essentially, we are at the edge of technology. We are at the pinnacle of everything. This is essentially a game changer. And NFTs right now, they're like JPEG art, and everyone's getting caught up in that. The fun side of that is that this is the intro, and people are getting a taste of, you know, playing with it and seeing that it's a real thing, that crypto isn't just this make-believe nonsense that'll die and go away. Now what we're seeing is that NFTs allow you to make these specific identifiable tokens, and you can attach that to anything. Right now we're attaching it to random JPEG art, but I read an article the other day, a really big what do they call them, school publishing house for books. You know, when you go to college and you buy those really expensive books, one of the major companies, I think it's called Pierce, they are NFTing their books, essentially because their books are going digital anyway. And
So wait. What is it? What is an NFT? Because I have
yeah.
I have heard this defined so many ways, but I still don't really understand it. Because
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people just hearing us speak about these terms, but they have no idea what it is.
All right,
What the fuck is an NFT?
I'll try my best to break it down. There's many ways to describe it. I'll try this one. If you guys don't get it, put it in the comments. I can rephrase it. So essentially, if you know what Bitcoin is just coin representations on a blockchain. So you have them, you can exchange them, and they're fungible. That's the term they use a lot, meaning like 1 for 1, it's equal, and there's going to be 21 million max, right? Cool. NFTs are now, imagine that one Bitcoin. Imagine if someone made a different chain. They're like, no. Each Bitcoin is unique. Like, they're not fungible. Like, this is different than that. So then you could take this one, you can call it a coin or whatever the case is. Let's just call it an NFT. And you can attach that to essentially like an ID card. And that ID card could represent you and a company, and you can enter the building because there can only be one, and that is attached to you and your identity, for example. And so what I was just mentioning about that college book publishing company is essentially they're going to make each of their books an NFT. So they're going to make an edition of, some science book. And they're going to make, I don't know, like 500,000 copies of it digitally, and each of them will have essentially like a magical serial number, and that is the NFT number, and there can only be one, and it essentially tracks the history. So when you buy it from the publisher on the blockchain, it will go to your wallet, and you will own that book. Like you've purchased it, and the publisher gets the money. And now when you, after the end of the school year, when you sell that book because you want to get your money back, now the beautiful part about the NFTs is that it's tracked on the blockchain. So when I sell the book to you, because you're going to take that class next term, you pay me, and the publisher automatically gets essentially a percentage of every future sale of that book. And that's revolutionary because normally when you buy the book from the store, and that's where their gains end. When I sell it to you, that's secondhand market. They never get those gains, and we could sell those books for as many years as we need to. Publishers were trying to game the system in order to keep making money. They're like, oh, we need to make a new edition to get people to buy the next one. Otherwise, they're going to go out of business. Using this system, they don't have to do that anymore. Therefore, not having the need to make new editions with barely different information. Game changer. And this is like, I think this is a pivotal application outside of regular JPEGs. That's real world usage, and that will benefit a business. Like, this is big. This is real big.
So for someone like myself, a musician, struggling artist, how does this help me selling my music out? Like, why would you sell something as an NFT if that was even an option to do it with music, right? As opposed to the typical avenue of a normal distribution company to sell all your records from that.
Yeah, so if you want to look at it, for that example, and this can go in many different ways. What I also want to emphasize is that this is a simple technology of like IDing a unique identifier to essentially anything electronic and, potentially even physical. And you can attach that to anything. Like I used an ID card, the first example, and then the publisher house is having a book. So for your example, it will be music. So when you release an album, you can release a certain set of them. And when people buy that album, if they share it with someone else, if they sell it to someone else, you can get benefit from that. Or, because it's the music industry.
It's a great way of tracking everything. So every time it's sold, I like it, man.
So normally, back in the day, when you think about CDs,
sure,
you would sell a CD, that's it. If your friends sold between each other, you never get those earnings.
Well, fair enough. That benefits someone like me, an artist, right? Because obviously I can get a percentage every time it's sold. But for a customer that wants to buy this shit, isn't that a disadvantage to them, knowing that anytime they sell this thing, they're
No.
Are they losing anything?
No, it's the same experience for everyone else. So,
Okay.
If you were gonna buy a digital album on iTunes, and then I didn't want to do it, but you wanted to like put it on my phone, we would just find a way to do that, and that would be the end, Or you can sell it to me like I had to pay for this, just give me a little bucks, and so the process is the same for everyone else. What happens is automatically, without anyone having to do anything extra, the true creator, the original creator, will always get a little tiny cut of that
Sweet.
profit. So the first sale is them direct, and so they get a good, decent amount, whatever they sell it for. After that, they get a little fraction of the sale price. And so that benefits you, means you can make one thing and get continually paid for it. And what's an additional benefit is that this opens up the realm of wealth creation. So I don't know if many of you out there read books on like, how to get wealthy or just how to handle your finances better. Some of the things you want to do is find ways to continually generate income. So now if you're a creative, you can, make a painting and then sell it and it's done. Or you can make a whole bunch and then you sell them and it's done. Now with this digital age, now with NFTs, they can continue to be sold and they will be continually sold. And you will always get a benefit, a little fraction of that income coming in for the future, and you don't have to do any more than the initial creation and sell and sale.
That sounds awesome. That's the passive income that so many people are
Yep.
striving to get, right?
Yeah.
You seem like someone that is well-read, understands how to get wealthy. I mean, you've obviously done well. You mentioned some of these books. Like, you've obviously read some stuff in regards to wealth creation. What would be, for people out there that are trying to up their financial game and whatnot, what would be some books or advice that you'd have for them? Like, are there any top books that you'd recommend? And what are the top things you can do outside of getting into the NFT world?
Oh, wow. You ask chunky questions. All right, let's attack this. So, a book that's fairly dated but is timeless that I've read, I think during the lockdown period, but it's been on my list forever, is Think and Grow Rich. That is, I know some people out there, I had the same idea, like, oh, it's an old book, it's probably not relevant. I'll find a more recent book because it'll be more relevant to today's time. Don't think like that. Think and Grow Rich is mind-blowing. Grab it, buy it.
Yeah. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. Like, this is is this why I'm still a struggling artist? What do I need to do to lift up my money gains? I mean, I'm just doing the crypto thing at the moment, and that's, I'm doing all right there.
It really depends on what you want. Like, so everyone would have different goals. Maybe you just want to get your finances or know how to save.
Everyone has the same goal, right? Like, they want to have financial freedom to some extent, right?
Yeah.
And granted, we all want different levels of money, but ultimately, people want to make enough money so they don't have to be dependent on this slave rat race society, right?
Totally.
So how do you get there? Because I have my own thoughts. Let's, because I feel like I come from this anarchist libertarian kind of vibe, which is what's gotten me into the crypto scene. And maybe you come from, I won't assume, but I feel like you probably have a more classical understanding of wealth creation and whatnot, even though you're into the crypto scene. So let's hear what your thoughts are on how to create wealth.
My thoughts on how to create wealth. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we can start from something simple that we all can grasp and we hear very often, which is work smarter, not harder. And
it's easy to say when you have a lot of money. Just put like $1 million into an interest bearing account, right? Like a Swiss bank account. Then you can live off the interest for the rest of your life. Like, I know the interest rates are really low. That's why you got to get into the crypto scene. Anyway, we'll save my thoughts for later. What are your thoughts, bro?
There's many different avenues. For example, if you're a creative, like what we're talking about right now with the NFTs, it's something you probably want to look into. You mentioned books. I would say that I'm not familiar with any books that are out right now. And because the technology is changing so rapidly and people haven't applied it to even the places that a lot of us has already thought up that it will end up in, it's best just to go straight to the web. Twitter is a great spot. You just type in, NFT and then start reading. Before you know it, you're down a rabbit hole that's informing you and blowing your mind. A lot of people start off from Reddit. I didn't start off from Reddit because Twitter is like live news flowing constantly, so I just go there. It's versus Reddit is good for a lot of other things, and it was good for crypto, but then somehow crypto Twitter just became everything. And so I just go there.
Keep talking. It's just my face is coming out here. People want to see my chocolate smile, not just yours, bro. Let me see if I can fix this.
Say it for me, I'm the guest.
Yeah, I know, but I gotta have the chocolate noobs here.
And if you want to, generally, Robert Kiyosaki wrote a great book, and it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad. That is one of my favorite books. It blew my mind, and I think everyone should start there because he breaks down in layman's terms essentially like the understanding of how money is created and also what are liabilities and assets. For example, he says like, oh, if you own your home, people think that's an asset, and he goes, no, it's not. You're living in it. Like, it's not. It's a liability. You have to do all these things, and all these expenses go into it until you are, for example, renting it out, and someone's paying you for that. Now it's an asset. And so, I mean, it goes into way more than that. But simple paradigm shifts like that. That's how you start thinking differently, because this is a thinking game. People think like, oh, he's rich because of he's born into it, or whatever the case is. A lot of people work for their earnings, or a lot of people had a little, they started off a little higher, but then they've infinitely increased it because of their thinking. And so I grew up poor, by the way. Like I like broke in the hood, and I just didn't want to continue that cycle, and I didn't want to stay in that environment. And so I went to books and surrounded myself with people that thought differently about money. Because I would say another simple thing to do that will probably shift the way people think and start putting you on a path to build wealth is if you surround yourself with people, or you find yourself saying that money is the root of all evil, stop it. That doesn't make sense. And I don't want to like force people to think a certain way. Just keep asking.
No, you should, man. This is
why.
what this podcast is all about: forcing your views on people, man. Let's speak your mind. Speak your mind, bro.
I think
money is the root of all evil, bro. Debate me. Money is it just leads to more and more problems, man. People get greedy. I'm a socialist. Money's wrong.
Money is agnostic. Money is a medium. Money is an adamant. It's just there. If we just look at artifacts of old money from old civilization, what is it worth? Nothing. I mean, maybe worth in terms of like it's a rare piece, but like, can you go buy a sandwich with it? No, because no one cares about it. We don't put value in that anymore. But currently, we put value in, like let's say the Australian dollar or the US dollar.
Someone likes what you're saying. Jesse's just giving you a whole bunch of gifts there, but I respect what you're saying. I totally agree.
And it's all about perception as well. So, for example, I perceive money as, and it's okay if you don't agree with me, but like I perceive money as
the root of all evil.
No. People put that evil in. Like, you instill value and you instill ideas. So if you instill money as end all be all and you take it to the extreme and your life is nothing but money and all your relationships fall apart, well, that's what money is to you. For someone who thinks money is real or evil and they run away from it, they stay broke and, but they're happy and they stay away from it. Like it's whatever you want to build your world to be, it'll be. For me, money is, so I think time is the most valuable resource, right? We're only on the planet for this amount of time. We've got to work. We've got to do all these other things, all these other ambitions we have.
Absolutely.
And I think I can use money to do things to buy me time. And money is an agnostic medium that I sort of use as a report card. So back when we were in school, we had grades, we had like tests, we had ways of benchmarking. I look at it as, okay, well, I started out making, I was working at Starbucks making this much, and then I worked at the bar doing this much, and then, I started studying design, and then I started getting paid this much, and this showed me my progress, and I had milestones. And then, I wanted to work myself, for example, out of the hood, and you need money to do that. You need to like pay for higher rents. You need to like have resources, and money opens those doors. And so I think don't get fixated on the money. The money will come, which is the
Rich Dad, Poor Dad
talks about that, along with Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I would say these two books is a starter pack.
So do these books typically focus on just the philosophy in regards to money, how you should think about it, or do they give you practical tools you can use to essentially get more money?
They both do both. But they come from it from very different avenues. So Think and Grow Rich, he actually gives you a a whole plan. Like the chapters are broken out. Like, please do all these things. If you do all these things, trust me, your life will change for the benefit. And what I find fascinating is this book was written way back in the day. So this guy, this author, you know, he was working with the Rockefellers. He essentially went around to all the super successful people at the time. I forget all the names, but you know, it's back in the days of like Rockefeller and Ford, right, where they were like kings of the world at that time, and they were like making huge strides. And he essentially was picking their brain and wondering, how do you get to this point, and like dissecting it and reverse engineering it so that he can make a game plan to share with the world on how to. I said it's called Think and Grow Rich, to become rich, because that's what he wanted. But he says in the beginning of the book, he goes, hey, I'm going to give you a strategy to get what you want out of life. I wanted to be rich, and so it's called Think and Grow Rich, and this is the process I use to get rich. But you can apply that to anything you actually want. If you want like true love, you want someone to be with for the rest of your life and start a family with, you can apply these principles to that, and then you will therefore get that. So
Okay, well, how would that apply to love? Like, you kind of explained money in terms of like things you can do in order to get money. At least the mindset you should have. Let's say if I wanted to get lots of bitches, I mean, lots of beautiful women, right? How do I?
In the endearing fashion.
How do I? This is obviously a perfectly good gentleman-like podcast. No inappropriate behavior here. I'm trying to keep it clean for Okeito. He's a gentleman. How do I get lots of beautiful ladies with this mindset of a capitalist?
With capitalists.
Because what do I? I mean, do I work hard? Like, I mean, I'm trying to apply this to women. Like, how do I just?
So for that, I guess one, you need to read the book, but like just to pull snippets of the book. The book isn't that huge, but he talks about a lot, and it blows your mind. So like, you know, I'm not going to do it justice, but hopefully this is a teaser trailer for people to actually go and acquire it.
Sure.
So essentially, he talks about, one of the things he talks about is essentially figuring out what you want, right? Crystallizing it, simplifying it into like simple phrase, and making it into a fashion. These are things we probably all heard before, but making it into a very achievable, attainable thing, and you make a strategy towards it. And then not only do you do that, you also have to like write it out to yourself and reinforce it. And not only that, you should also share it with people. So you know, if there's people you trust, people that will support you, you know, girlfriends, family, whatever the case is like a friend, anyone, a mentor, keep sharing. This is what you want, and believe it or not, that plays into essentially the world eventually bringing you what you want. And he talks about it. And it almost becomes like this weird philosophical, like
sounds like the law of attraction, bro.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. But there's a lot of science to that, you know.
Exactly, and that's what I found interesting. This book was made before that law of attraction, but he's talking about that.
Well, that's actually been around.
It was like the seed.
When the book came out, what I'm guessing 70s, 80s, or something like that.
No, it was before that.
Okay,
Remember,
well,
this is Rockefeller time.
All right, fair enough. But I will say the law of
I gotta
attraction,
look it up.
even before. Look, this is my era, right? Like it's been around even before Oprah popularized this thing, even before the 60s. I mean, these are fundamental laws of the universe. Like, there are references made to this in the Kabbalion, the Hermetical sciences, like the law of mentalism, law of attraction, deals with essentially bringing what you want into existence in terms of like what you focus on. Mind creates reality, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
so that's something that's been around for a while.
Exactly. And when I was first introduced to that back, so we're in Australia right now, but I'm from the U.S. I've been living here for a number of years. But back in the U.S., when I came across, I was working for a company, and everyone was about like self-development, and I came across all these books, and people were talking about this. I even watched the documentary The Secret, and they talk about laws of attraction. So sometimes they describe it in many different fashions, but sometimes it's almost like out of world. It's like this force out there, and like it helps you do this. It's almost, you know, not godlike, but you know, it the way they talk about it, something, it felt like that, and that aspect of it sort of made me like, yeah. I mean, I see what you mean, but the way you describe it is interesting. Now, when I read that, but I still believed it because they also bring up scientific research that was done and blah blah blah. So you have this balance, but I was just like, it's a very interesting way of describing it. In Think and Grow Rich, which was made way before that, he breaks it out in the book in a fashion that made total sense, and I'm gonna try to do it justice. But basically, it works sort of like this. if I wanted to essentially, let's say I want to become a really good DJ, right? So I'll put that up on the board and I'll reinforce it to myself. You got to reinforce it to yourself. You got to encourage yourself. And then you want to obviously put in the work. You know, you can't just like say something and think something's going to come to you. You have to put in the work. And then by also putting it out in the universe, meaning you have to share with individuals. Because like, so an idea in your head it's non-existent. As soon as you vocalize it and you put it out there, now that's real. It's hitting the airwaves.
Absolutely.
You hear it. Now you know what I'm thinking. Now you know what I'm after. That makes it real. It's no longer imaginary, right? And then because you know it, and I keep reinforcing it, and I tell another friend, you guys know it, you guys somehow become like a part of this machine in the universe, like beacons. And you'll hear something when they be like, oh, they're looking for a DJ spot. Because you know I was looking for one, and you know I've been studying. And then all of a sudden, then it comes to me, right? Now, here's an interesting part. This all made sense to me later on. If you don't do the work, if you're not studying how to DJ in between, and this opportunity comes, you can't accept it, or you can't even see it because your friends are like, he ain't fucking ready, or it comes and you're not able to, you're not ready, or you can't see the opportunity, right? But if you're studying, then you're able to, one, spot it, and then two, execute on it, which is pulling the trigger on it.
Absolutely.
Those two things are key. So opportunities will come to you, especially if you're putting it out there. And maybe some of you experienced that in your life, you know, but you just weren't ready. And then you got to prepare to be ready to pull that trigger when you need to. And it's okay if you miss it the first time. It'll probably come back around again, and you got to be ready to pull the trigger then. And I think that blew my mind.
Yeah, I resonate with what you're saying. One of my favorite motivational speakers, Les Brown, speaks about this. Basically, there's opportunity and then there's skill. And when your skill meets your opportunity, that's when it blows. But you mentioned a lot of things that I relate to in terms of speaking what you want, right? Because, you know, I heard something a while ago that there are times when it's a good idea not to speak what you want because people will shut down your dreams and that can discourage you. That's like another side to it. But I think what you're saying is true in the sense that if you speak these things openly, other people hear it. Other people know that, oh, Okeito is a designer or a DJ or a hip-hop artist. And when they have an opportunity, they're obviously going to refer to you, or things will come to you. People will know about you if you talk. You talk, you know. But if you keep all this stuff to yourself, I mean, granted, it can make sense if you need to protect this stuff. If it's some kind of an idea that you don't want to get out there. But that brings me to something else. A lot of people have the mindset that there are some people in the tech world, like Elon Musk, that want to have everything open source. They want to have their ideas out there for the general public, so the general public can make these things better. They work from this sense of what I call Ubuntu, right? It's like we're working together. And then there are some people that have this mindset where they're all about patenting all these technologies because if someone else gets their idea, the idea is you don't want someone to get a hold of your idea because then you're going to lose money, right? And it's like one idea is built off of what I'd call an abundance worldview, and the other idea is that there's this world of scarcity. Like a lot of people, a lot of the socialists believe that whereas what you're speaking is all good and well, that you can think and grow rich and so forth, but only a finite amount of people can have access to a great amount of wealth. Like at some level, we can't all be rich. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see it being possible for everyone, and do you see it being beneficial to have everyone have access to your ideas and so forth?
You and these chunky questions. Okay, one. So, in terms of access to ideas.
Okay.
So specifically in Elon's mission, he made it clear. He says basically he's trying to change the world, and he believes that he's doing a great job with Tesla and doing the electric cars, like extraordinary job. But the job can be even better if there's other players and, you know, they have a decent start, you know, because you need an electric charging infrastructure for these cars, you know, and sure, he could probably do it, but it'll just take longer. What if you open source it and like now Ford can join the party, now Nissan can join the party, and now all of us can benefit from that. And sure, he has a head start, sure he's gonna make money, but like he's just like, it's faster this way, and everyone has success this way.
And I think once you have $250 billion, your goals shift away from wanting to make more money to wanting to uplift the vibration of the planet in terms of like
Totally.
benefiting more people. And like a lot of people forget that not all of these rich elite want to have world domination. A lot of them actually want to benefit the world. You know, they're actually trying to make a change for the positive, and I respect that.
Totally.
But one of the problems I have though is that I feel like the game is rigged to some extent. Like when you see people like Elon Musk getting these deals
rich
with
special.
with the government, where I think recently there was some kind of a special lane that's been built in the United States that's going to give Tesla a faster ability to deliver their products. So they're actually making a special like transport lane or something like that for Tesla. And it's when the government gets involved, because I believe in the free market, right?
Yeah.
I think it's not fair when the government. I mean, granted, this is done in order to uplift mankind and so forth, and the world's looking at Tesla as this amazing company, right?
Yeah.
If we can help them, we can help the world. But when you start favoring them, when the government wants to give special favoritism to SpaceX, you know, by giving them a $1.5 billion grant or build a special lane that only they have access to, that allows these corporations to essentially have more.
What's the lane thing?
That's essentially what I said. Like they're
Like a
yeah.
street lane?
I'm not sure in regards to the details, but essentially they're built because Tesla does so much, generates so much money and does so much delivery and stuff they're doing. They're actually focusing on building a dedicated lane for Tesla in order to be able to transport their goods, something along those lines.
Oh,
correct me if I'm wrong. That's what
transport lane, like a
Yeah.
shipping lane.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And the basic idea is the government's actually coming involved and doing something to benefit one organization over another. And I'm all about benefiting the planet, but when you have the government getting involved, favoring one company over another, or penalizing one company, then it does lead to this situation where you're not going to have, it's not going to be a level playing field. You know, it is going to be scarce in the fact that not everyone is going to be able to bring about this wealth because it's the system's kind of rigged, right?
Yeah.
And those that have more money are able to make more money.
Yeah. Wait, what's your question again?
I don't know. It's just turned into a conversation because
I
I'll
agree.
yeah,
with you,
because
but I agree in certain regards. I 100% believe in like free markets as well, but I believe government play should be light and not completely absent, because it's almost impossible to be completely absent, because one, we need you for protection. Like protecting the markets is a definite, right?
Well,
and incentivizing shouldn't be absent as long as the people want that as well, because remember, they're supposed to represent the people.
Okay.
And so if we're like, hey, electric cars is what we do want, how can we help facilitate that, and this is the solution, it's all aligned, sure, fine. Now what I will say about foul play, or like too many fingers in the pie, is I would just basically say, for lack of better terms, then it becomes market manipulation. It's not free, it's not fair, and it's tilted. I'm trying to find an example of this. So,
Yeah. This brings me back to a conversation we were having earlier, because Okeito and I, we were talking about just how different ways of seeing the world. We pretty much have the same ideology, in case you haven't noticed. Like, we believe in free markets, capitalism, all that kind of stuff. But I was talking about how you kind of see things more on a spectrum, like more on a macro level, and I'll try to be kind of like off or on bullying about it. Like, you either can or cannot do that kind of stuff. In regards to the free markets, right, my attitude is it shouldn't be up in the air. Like, the government should only have control in terms of restricting violent behavior. So either force or fraud, right? As soon as you get into this realm of like, well, you know, they can have restrictions and put regulations on it, but it's just as long as the people agree with that, that becomes a spectrum issue, because that's always subject to what the general consensus is, right? But if it becomes very objective when you say the government should have no ability whatsoever to interfere in anyone's organization, provided they're not committing force or fraud. Because the biggest problem I've had with the recent agenda, right, is that the government has gotten its dirty little fingers into people's businesses and said, look, mate, we're not going to allow you to leave to even operate your business because there's a deadly virus going around. And that's fucking crazy. But there are a lot of conservatives out there that make the argument, well, you know, we have to find a balance here. And I'm like, no, the government should have no say in that whatsoever. The government should only be able to do things like, oh, you're committing fraud here, you're not allowed to do that. We're going to punish you. But get your fingers out of my business. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's sort of, you can draw analogies. Your parents are able to, you know, tell you how to live your life to a certain extent at a certain age, and then after a while you're like, well, that's too far. Well, I live in my own house. You can't tell me I shouldn't party, or you can't tell me I should date this person. The government shouldn't be able to tell you how to have sex. Why is missionary style the only acceptable position? There's
I love this, and I have an
right?
objective answer to it, right? So it has to do with guardianship. When you're under the guardianship of your parents, right? Essentially, you are subjecting yourself to their rules and regulations and so forth. Obviously, they can't commit harm on you. They're your guardian, they have to take care of you, but essentially you're under their authority, right? Yeah. They're responsible for you. However, when you reach a point where you have enough consciousness, enough maturity, you can emancipate yourself by either just unconsciously in terms of like moving out, or you can legally do that, Yeah. Once you take on the decision to say, hey, look, I'm an individual, I get to rule my own life, and you move out, well, then you get to decide what you want. But as long as you're living under your parents' house and you're subjecting yourself to their will, their guardianship, then you have to subject yourself to that. And as a kid, obviously, you don't have the ability to do that for yourself, to leave. So essentially, you're under the guardianship of your parents. So it really is, you either agree to these rules and regulations or you don't agree to them. But it shouldn't be this, well, how much does a government get to influence how much parents get to control their children, That's where I try to be more objective about this. But no, I think it's, you're raising some really good points here, but I want to bring it to, like, the free market and how people can really liberate themselves from, tyranny financially. Because one of the biggest problems I see right now, right, like this you kind of touched on this slightly, in terms of what you can do in order to create wealth, right? One of the problems I have is the current system is such that, one, you're going to get taxed a lot. Unless you're making a substantial amount of money, you're going to be subject to the taxation system, right? This is why I'm a big fan of crypto. Ladies and gentlemen, get some Ethereum, get some Bitcoin, get some Litecoin.
Another way to start your path on the way to wealth is to view taxes differently.
Really? In what sense? Are you for tax? Are you a statist?
No. What I'm trying to say, and I'm probably doing it poorly, is that you have to really change your views on a lot of things. Like, my mind got rocked when I read, I'm telling you, like,
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
All right.
I love that story as well, because it's a true story of his journey, and he had a poor dad, which is actually his biological dad, and his friend had a rich dad. His friend was like more wealthier, but he became such buddy. He became another father figure, and that's how he had a rich dad and a poor dad. And
well, Okeito, change my mind, my brother. Change my mind about taxation, because I'm very principled about this. Taxation is theft.
Don't get me wrong. I agree in certain regards.
In what regard? I thought you were all Ayn Randian with this kind of stuff. Objectivist, man.
No. In limitation, right? So I believe that you should pay taxes. Like, this infrastructure and this construct that is your country, that is your government, that is this jurisdiction needs...
Ding, ding. Here we go.
To function, right? Because remember,
it's theft.
People don't like to wait. People don't like to see it this way. But your government is a business; they're just a monopoly on it, right?
Sure.
And so they need some money to function, and we need their protection. If China attacks, we need their military.
If you
right?
consent to it, but the necessity argument, that's the plea of every tyrant. And where's that money going? They're using this to drop bombs in places with brown people all the time. It's
I'm just building. There is a need of government.
Okay, well, first of all, what is taxation?
It's thin, right?
What is taxation?
Listen, okay.
I'm going hardcore with you on this one, bro, because this is what I do on the Christian journey, bro.
That's fine.
Yeah, because this is the statist argument, or somewhat of a conservative argument. Look, all things in moderation. Like, we need to have some taxation. In order to make sure the system is flourishing. And people use the same argument when it comes to lockdowns, when it comes to mandating experimental boom shakalakas, as I call them. Well, clearly we can't have everyone just running around and not subjecting themselves to these necessary vaccines.
Okay.
Well, whatever happened to sovereignty? It's like, look, here's the thing. Here's a bit of history. In the United States, before I think it was 1913, there was no income tax, right? Like, you actually can't have...
It was the war that started that.
Yeah, you can have functioning societies without this kind of taxation.
Totally.
And we've had, in history, in Ireland, like, basically you had these tuas, right, where essentially you'd have, like, somewhat of a state. The thing is, it was voluntary, but people would get the ability to... decide what they do with their own money. Like, there was no government coercion. Essentially had a free society. Yeah. All right? This stuff can be done. So whenever people make this argument that we got to have some, and look, I understand the necessity argument, we got to have some kind of protection. You can do that, but it has to be voluntary. But taxation is essentially someone taking that by force and saying that, look, unless, of course, you pay this amount of money, we're going to perform some kind of violent action on you, which is principally not on.
Yeah, I agree that like I don't like being forced or threatened to do stuff either, and I think we agree that there is a base level that there's a base basically. If you look at the government as a company, because it is, whether you or just think of it as that, because it
violent
is,
monopoly.
It's just a monopoly.
Yeah, violent
of a
monopoly.
company. They have no competition. It's just them, right?
Yeah, it would cease to be like a.
And
Sorry, go on.
you have signed up because you are a citizen of this land, and so they're the company. You
But
require
did you sign?
minimum
Did you sign up
services.
though? Like, if was there some kind of social contract? Because I know I'm getting really philosophical, argumentative with this shit, but.
Well, we can always
it's-
double
yeah,
back, but first, let's just say,
but
let's
I'm taking a peek at your argument here. You sign up
I
to
haven't
it.
even stated my argument.
Well, you made the point that you sign up, and I haven't signed anything. I didn't see that.
Well, if you're a citizen and you like your citizenship, listen. If you don't like what you're move, right? And if you can't,
Well,
like,
what if you actually fought for your independence, like in the United States to begin with, right? Fought against this tyranny so that you could have these freedoms, and then
Yeah.
over time, people have gotten empowered and decided to apply these tyrannical mandates on you, saying that you need to be taxed. And when you've already, it's like me moving into an area and saying, "This is my area. I'm living here," right?
All right, let me
Then
just
someone
catch
comes
up
in
with you.
place
Let me catch up
and
with
says,
you. Let me
"Look,
catch
you
up
got to
with
pay taxation."
Let me catch up with you, bro. So what I'm saying is that using the United States as an example, there's 50 states. They all come together and they said, "Hey, we will be one country if you provide this, and we will do. We all are under this banner, this Constitution, this
Who's
flag."
we though?
You-
I didn't.
Let me talk, bro.
All right, bro.
Let me talk, bro. Let's just say you require from your government minimum services, right? Listen, like you're here in Australia, right? If some shit goes down, you expect some basic things for the government to do, right? Basic.
I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't
Well-
expect that.
Well, because
I would want
don't
it.
go down a rabbit hole.
All
but
right.
Since you pay taxes, you expect some services for that money you paid, right?
There he goes with all the assumptions. Who says I pay taxes?
Okay, well, whatever then. Okay, anyways, I'll speak for myself.
All right, brother.
To get to this argument, basically, the government is a company, and they said they'll provide protection. A court system, so that if shit goes, if I can't deal with the situation on my own, they'll come and help. Ameliorate the situation.
Sure.
Right. And these are services that and for some countries, maybe it's like a little bit of healthcare bonuses, maybe like there's subsidies for the poor, whatever. Right. You get these minimum services that I would expect because I'm paying taxes. Now, there's a threshold. Like, I want to pay this much. Like, for example, to your point, I don't believe in income tax. So income tax, going back to your little history lesson. So in the U.S., at least, I can only speak for U.S. history.
Have the same thing in Australia
the war
as well.
happened, and because the country was like, we basically need more money, and if we apply this income tax, we can use that money to fund the war. And so everyone was like, yes, let's do this because we're fighting a world war, right?
Sure, not everyone,
And so-
but yeah, go on.
And then, well, whatever. And
Yeah.
And then so it was, we all galvanized for this, and voila, I wasn't born at that time, but you know what I mean. And then
That sounds like a bit of
and then the
history
war
repeating. That's like
ended.
what happened right now the last couple of
war
years, right?
ended.
Had
The
this
war-
pandemic. Everyone's like, oh, let's all chip in together. Let's force
Exactly.
lockdown everyone, right? And then it's like, oh, we're just doing this for a short amount of time to flatten the curve, right? And then, oh, and everyone's on board with it. Really? Everyone's on board with it. And then it becomes permanent.
True. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this, but essentially they never pulled out the income tax, right? The U.S. country was formed basically saying that like income tax is theft, it's gross, don't go there.
Yeah.
And in an emergency situation, we applied it and it never got pulled out. Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
And it's-
Now, to their defense, there are
All right.
a number of states that have removed it, and you don't pay income tax.
Doesn't matter. I would say, unless, of course, you as an individual consented to those unlawful mandates, you should not be required to. You see, that would be the
Yeah.
objective statement in regards to it.
Totally.
But what happens
You
over
could fight
time?
it in court.
Yeah, is governments always make this argument that, look, it's an extreme situation. We need to enact these special measures, state of emergency. This is what's happened over the last few years. And they have, just over the last couple of years, implemented the most outrageous mandates, right? Things that are a direct violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So many human rights violations, right? But now it's just been accepted as normal, right? And over time, this stuff gets normalized. However, the fact of the matter is the government should have no place in this. What happens throughout history is governments typically get bigger and bigger, and it happens because they always have these exceptions to the rule. Oh, it's a world war. Oh, it's a pandemic. And eventually, if you have a look at the situation 55 years ago, right, or longer, we had a lot more freedom. Essentially, people were able to get married without the government's involved when people are allowed to essentially travel to different countries without needing a passport. And what do you think? Over the last few decades, has it gotten worse in terms of our freedom or better? And it's always going this direction. And it only happens because people say, well, it's an exception. What I say is that...
so many factors.
Yeah, that's true, but
I actually want to... We've gone
yeah,
a little bit, but
yeah.
like... Actually, where I was going, I think you would agree with an aspect of it. When I
if you
think
consent to it, like, sure.
I triggered you when I said you need to think about tax in a different way, and you had assumptions on what I meant, and now we are down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But let me finish, because I think you might agree with a little bit of what I'm gonna say.
Sure.
But if not, it's for the audience, because remember,
Sure.
we're trying to tell them how to be
Absolutely,
wealthy.
fair enough.
And one of the ways is that you're gonna need to view things a little differently. This is what I'm going through. This is what I've been through, and this is just the way it works. Obviously, if you want different results, you gotta do stuff differently and see things differently.
Sure.
Anyways, when Robert Kiyosaki, his views are from that book. Some of his views are that basically you should not pay the government any more money than you need to, right? And I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah, which could be zero.
Yeah, and sometimes it is zero, because when you own a business, and owning a business is a very powerful thing. That's another point on like how to get wealthy. Start a company, just figure out the paperwork and do it, because you get way more write-offs and benefits to be an LLC or whatever, some sort of structure, versus as an individual, they're like, you can't write that off, that doesn't count, whatever, just and take your money. So essentially, changing that mindset and going like, oh, I do a service normally for this company, maybe I'll just like make a little company of myself and then sell the same service and then have a whole bunch of write-offs and all these other protections as bonuses. Anyways, but you get all these write-offs, all your expenses can be written off against all the money that your revenue, right? And sometimes they equal zero. And guess what? You only get taxed on your gains. So if you have zero gains, or let's just say you had $1 in profit at the end of the year, you pay taxes on $1 and you give the government 30 cents. And you're like, think. That's
absolutely. It's navigating yourself based off of the situation that you find yourself in as best as you can. I'm all for that. It's just purely from an ethical stance. Like the biggest issue I have, which I've already said, is that when you're paying tax, a lot of the times this money is going to causes that you don't necessarily support, you know?
Totally.
And that becomes an issue.
And that's part of our Robert Kiyosaki's argument on why. Actually, I've read and heard speeches from a number of rich people, and I'm sure they have as well. But a number of them point out that they will not give the government more money than is ever needed to in taxes because, one, they understand their business. Like, think about Elon and Tesla, because we already talked about him.
Sure.
He knows that business inside and out, to the point where he's one of the most successful car companies out of nowhere, right? Like, so he knows it in and out. So
Space company
why would he give the government money that he could use to do all sorts of other important things in his business, pay for more staff, do all this? Why would he throw that away to the government when they're going to do all these sorts of stuff that you mentioned that he might not agree with or isn't beneficial to him per se, right? So essentially he knows better what to do with this money than the government does. The government has different objectives.
Absolutely. And can I just say that I'm all for taxation. It doesn't become taxation when it's voluntary, right? And like there's certain countries, like I believe in Denmark, where you get to choose where your tax dollars are spent. Like if you want to focus them on medical. Absolutely. That would be fantastic. But it's a real troubling thing when you're giving money it's forcibly been taken from you, and it's going to things that you don't necessarily support indirectly, whether that be abortion, taboo topic, whether that be funding pharmaceutical companies that will mandate
bailing out banks that screwed up.
Absolutely, and that's where it becomes an issue, you know. But I did want to just address this because we spoke about things that you can do in order to develop your wealth and so forth. These are some of the ideas I have, and I'd love you to challenge this, right? Like, one of the problems I have is that a lot of people over the last years have realized that and it's becoming more like this. Like Joe Biden recently signed some act, I can't remember what it was, that essentially gives the government more power to control your money and so forth. But this stuff isn't news. It's been like this for a long time. If the government said, let's say you park in the wrong area, you get a parking fine, right? And you just decide not to pay that. Over time, you can receive these infringement fines, and that can build up. And then at some point, the government can just say, we're just going to take your car, or we're just going to take your house, right?
Really?
Yeah,
For a car?
really, bro. That's a scenario that is actually not just built of air and imagination, but is a legitimate thing. What happens is when you
Put a
get,
lien on your house.
yeah, but when you get in trouble with the government, right, for doing things that are, I would say you're right, like let's say refusing to partake in whatever it might be, some kind of experiment.
But why don't you just take it to court?
Because
battle it out in court. That's where you need to battle.
Because the courts are implementing something which is unjust. Let's say a situation where the courts decide to enact something that's unlawful, right? Like enact a mandate that forces people to undergo some kind of like experimental vaccine or something like that. Oh, wait a sec, that actually happened. Or requires people to be locked in their homes right now, right? You don't want to abide by these laws, and then the state, right, which has been co-opted, right, by some some illegal entity, and I'm not speaking in hypotheticals here, this is actually what has happened, all right, decides to fine you. Eventually, they do have the power to seize your property and things like that. So the point I'm trying to make is I would like to create a system where I have as much control in my own account, my finances as possible, and I don't want to be in a situation where I'm vulnerable to the state in any way. And that means
100%.
thinking about where I store my money, thinking about even like the property that I own. Because as soon as maybe this sounds a little extreme because a lot of people are so caught up wanting to live in the system, like I think it's possible to live in the system but also not be dependent on it, like to be in a situation where if need be, you can get the hell out of this country, or you can you can use your own money without having to depend on a bank that can essentially just take your money away.
Or it just folds and you can't get your money out.
Absolutely, because it seems completely extreme to most people because we haven't lived through that. But over the last
financial crisis.
but over the last few hundred years, every currency is essentially going to zero, right? And we've seen time and time again governments essentially try to, whether it's taking the gold from citizens or just freezing people's bank accounts. They did this in the United States recently, and it's happened here in Australia as well. So
They did in Canada.
Yeah, they did in Canada. But essentially, I think it's important to be thinking about how to deal with the situation if it becomes a situation where the government decides to just seize all your stuff.
Well, I guess it's just it's good to have fail safes. It's good to have backup plans.
Yeah.
I
got my money in crypto and in a normal bank account as well.
You would
diversify.
like to think that maybe you're working a job and you're fine, you're coasting, there's no problem, but maybe it's good to have a resume ready just in case one shit goes down at work, or you wake up one day and you hate it, or the business goes out out of fashion or bankrupt. Or it's good to have money stored aside just in case shit hits the fan and you need an emergency situation, you need surgery, or you need whatever. Like, you should always have a backup plan, hands down. And now, how you sort of framed it is basically one backup plan. I guess we can tie that into like ways to like be on the path towards wealth. It's probably like a broken record, but like get into crypto, but more specifically, just get into Bitcoin, get a piece of Bitcoin, get like a half a Bitcoin, get a 0.01 Bitcoin, because to your point, a perception thing as well, like Bitcoin essentially makes you your own bank. Like the wallet, when you spring it up and you have a Bitcoin, that is your bank, as long as like you have it on your own hardware wallet, assuming it's not on an exchange. That's it. And then no one can take that from you.
Absolutely.
And, like that's it, and that can be there forever. It's your nest egg. It's whatever, and you can take it to any country. And Bitcoin is universal. We know when Elon has us on Mars through Starlink, you'll be able to transact to the moon.
Bro.
The end.
Bro, we've only just touched on the financial aspect of stuff, and there's so many different levels to what you do and that we could go into, but I'm glad that we kind of like kept it around here. One thing I got to ask you, man, because I know lately a lot of people have taken interest in a certain organization called what's it called? Hackers University. No, what's it called? Hustlers University, right? This is, for those that are not aware, a program by Andrew Tate, the Tate brothers, that essentially gives you all these different avenues for creating wealth. A lot of people have looked at it as a pyramid scheme because it has an affiliate program, but from what I understand, that's been recently taken down because of all the people that have been shitting on this thing. But are you familiar with this?
No.
Oh, you're not. All right. I was going to get your thoughts on it, but essentially, Hustlers University, it gives all these different strategies to creating wealth, think it's got something like 18
cool.
different programs.
Sounds like
and it's $50 a month.
souped-up version of what we're trying to do now.
Absolutely. And I was hearing, the notorious Andrew Tate talk about this. I mean, not all the stuff he says is crazy. The guy's got some good knowledge, and the guy is obviously someone that is very successful financially. But he's been promoting this thing like crazy, and a lot of people, it seems, I mean, there's been over like tens and thousands of subscribers onto this thing, are using this as a way of creating wealth. And I mean, I'm not advising anyone to try this thing, but I'm always curious about new approaches to making wealth, because one thing for certain is that the classical approach, going to a university, creating this ridiculous amount of debt, and then spending a good amount of your time trying to pay it off, and then building up a nest egg and so forth, and relying on your 401k, whatever it is in the States, or that's old news. That shit is not as effective anymore, particularly when the U.S. government is printing out more money over the last few years than it's printed in. Like it's something like 40% of the amount of wealth that's in circulation in the U.S. dollar has been printed out over the last amount of money. Yeah, that's what I meant. Money supply. Money supply has been printed out over the last few years, and what that does in terms of your nest egg there is definitely not a good thing. So these are things that I'm definitely exploring. I think are worthwhile considering.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about Andrew Tate and all of that. I know that he drops a number of like really interesting truth bombs, and that program sounds good. If you're looking to create wealth, he's obviously done it. He's wealthy. And
skeptical, by the way. I mean, we're not endorsing this thing. It's just because
since you brought it up and you want my thoughts on it,
but I don't want to have people subscribing saying a Christian told me to check this out.
No, but I mean, like you can. I mean, just surround yourself with like-minded people too. Maybe you have a friend that also wants to get out of the rat race. Just like team up and buy books and share knowledge, and then you have like
Okeito's here, man. It makes me look good, and he's got some great wealth knowledge and whatnot. Bro, we've just hit the 1 hour mark, and I didn't really know where this conversation was gonna go. We had a whole bunch of things we were gonna delve into, but we really got deep into the financial world, which is something that is one of your many areas of expertise. So I feel like a lot of people are going to benefit from this. Drop us some comments below. Let us know what your thoughts are on the knowledge Okeito was dropping. Let us know how you feel about Hustlers University and all the other things that I've spoken about. Am I completely crazy in regards to wanting to keep the government out of my bank account, or do I have the wrong idea about wealth? Is Okeito on the money? Let me know in the comments below. But ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Okeito, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, man. I know you've been a little apprehensive. It's like, what's Krishna going to throw at me over here, But I feel like it's been a great podcast. We delved into some really important topics, and bro, I'd love to have you on again. We can delve into some other crazy shit, at some point.
That's cool. Yeah, I would definitely be back.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there.
Like this notion of liberty, for example. What is liberty?
And I think that concept of the will is very important.
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet? What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community?
Bitcoin will not work as digital gold.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.
Everyone deserves the same chance, the same treatment, the same respect.
History's littered with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score, maintaining our care.